We're live. We're talking about nutrients. I think this is a good topic for a lot of the people that are listening because we test nutrient deficiencies. We see that they're really, really common, but many people are walking around with nutrient deficiencies. They don't know about it. So if we're thinking, and this is what Hillary and I are thinking about, how do we prevent dementia, memory problems, just all the things that happen to our brains as we age, because our brain is the master organ of the body. How do we keep our brains active, sharp? We have to think about nutrient deficiencies because we see people who on the paper, if we look at their diet, it looks really good. Yet we do the labs and they come back really deficient. So we're talking about 3 common nutrient deficiencies, right, Hillary, that can affect your brain health and need to be a top priority for protecting yourself.
Well, one of them's not a nutrient. One of them's a macro, right? Like a big macro. But anyway, so we're going to talk about B12, essential fatty acids, and protein just in general. But so B12, when you test a B12 on your labs, if you've ever had B12 checked and you go look at a range, the range is literally like depending on the lab, 250 to 1100. It's the most massive range. And so many doctors are checking and it won't even flag as abnormal because people are showing up with like around 300 or something like that. And as we age, B12 is extremely important for repair of cells, for keeping for energy production. And as we age, we aren't absorbing it or extracting it from food as well. B12 comes from animal proteins. It is often deficient in people who have a vegan diet, but as we age, when we're stressed, tired, and our machinery is declining, we're just not extracting this really crucial vitamin as much from food, and we get B12 deficiencies.
And that surprised me when I learned about that. And it's always striking to look at that list of what are the normal processes that happen in the body as we age. And one of them is that your stomach no longer has this thing intrinsic factor, which is required for absorption of B12 from your food. So often somebody eats chicken and eggs and they're eating meat and they're like, how could I be B12 deficient? That's only for vegetarians. But in reality, your body's set up to grab less from your food. And I know that doesn't make any sense to me either, because you would want older people to have high B12.
We just weren't alive in the 70s and 80s.
No.
Just human beings are living way better lives because of hygiene and all the things and
longer lives.
Right.
So it's just unfortunate because B12 is one of those nutrients that affects our mood so much. So for brain health, it's really important for memory in particular, but for mood, it's very associated with depression, having a low B12 number. And sometimes it's the single thing that we fix and the person feels so much better. So B12 is such a common deficiency. We see it come up on labs all the time. I mean, do you ever have a day in clinical practice without a B12 deficiency? I mean, I can't imagine. No, it's just a no, right? Yeah, I agree.
Every day. I mean, yes, it's a humongous deficiency. Many elderly people are, as we age, like if you're in an old folks home or something like that, many people are getting B12 injections. Like that's just something that people who work with older aging people, they understand that that's a factor for people in their 80s. But like if you're in your 50s and it's not optimized, then something's awry, so for your 40s, 50s, and we see this, teenagers have B12 deficiencies. So, whether it's we're coming at things super stressed, we don't have great intrinsic factor to begin with, our stomachs are not functioning as well, something's happening where this is a very pervasive nutrient deficiency and it's critical for memory, mood, brain function. So
my husband and I talk about this a little bit on older men in particular who drink alcohol, and maybe they're social drinkers, but like consistent alcohol drinkers tend to have poor memories. We just noticed this in people we know and people we interact with. And I always tell them, well, I think it's the alcohol. Alcohol really can deplete B12. Alcohol also has an effect on a specific part of your brain that lays down short-term memory. But alcohol is very bad for your brain. And one of the ways is this B12, bringing B12 quite low. So it doesn't require you to have any actual physical symptom. You won't necessarily have nerve tingling or buzzing or neuropathy or any kind of like, that's a typical thing we think of with B12. You don't need to actually see that to have it be affecting your brain and your mood. So getting B12 checked is really important. And do you think a yearly check is the just basic yearly check? And if it's ever low, we do it more, or what would be I think a yearly screen it should be in.
I don't think yearly screens is appropriate in any kind of healthcare system, especially for people 45 and older, 50 and over. You're going through a lot of changes. Annual checks, like who made that up? Like 6 months, every 6 months, you should be working with some kind of practitioner in the minimum, to me, to at least make sure things are operating and you're happy. Way too many things can happen in a year.
But it's actually not part of a standard screening blood work that insurance covers, et cetera. It's just not. So you do have to ask for it.
Cheap. So ask for it. Ask for it. It would never cost. It's a cheap screen to run. It's easy to supplement. You don't need to do it by injection. There's great supplements for you. B12 is one of those things that it's like that one you should have a handle on. And the other things that we wanted to talk about is protein, and protein's like a big topic, but just in general, making sure that you have enough protein, we're in a very like protein craze in health right now in 2024. Everyone's talking about it. People are on the carnivore diet. People are talking, you can't go on Instagram without women talking about protein to balance their hormones.
Yeah.
So we've been in this game long enough. Kara and I have seen like all these health trends. So it is a good trend. And it's true that people should be aiming for around half their body weight in protein daily. And that is hard.
It's hard
to do.
I would say 9 out of 10 people I see are still low on protein.
Us included, like it's a hard gig, and the people who are doing the best at it are really actively trying, but you need the daily building blocks to help keep your brain healthy. Like it's just, the amazing thing about health is whether we're talking about your brain, we're talking about your hormones, your sex life, it's all the same. You need to like eat the basic foundations. You need to move your body and get oxygen, and you need to hydrate your tissues, and you need to have a lot of fun and laughter and love. Like those are the kind of mainstays for all of medicine, but for dementia, even more so. So really check your protein intake. If you're low, then do things to hack it. Like I love our protein powder at Cultivate Foundations, or our Cultivate protein powder, because it's like a kind of a multivitamin light. And so it's got B12 in it. It's got a lot of the nutrients in it. I don't have to take a multivitamin when I'm using the protein powder. It's a great meal replacement in a way for me. I love it. You love it.
It works for me on my, for my daily shake. I also like the fiber in it too, but a protein, I don't know that I could live without a protein supplement. Honestly, it's very hard for me to get that much protein. Naturally, I don't love those foods. I'd rather have just a salad, but I can have some nuts and seeds, and I can have some beans, and I can have lentils. So I just need to think about it. I was I have a 16-year-old daughter. Her pediatrician is lovely, and I really appreciate her input, and I think she's a fantastic diagnostician. But we're talking about foods with my daughter, and we're talking about breakfast. And it was really interesting because I feel like this is a common mistake. So that's why I'm bringing it up. She's like, could you eat a boiled egg? And, I'm sitting there thinking, we're talking about 6 or 7 grams of protein. That's not what I want her to have for breakfast. I want her to get at least 15 grams, if not more, like 20, 25 at breakfast. She has a long day, this kid. So it's interesting, like one hard-boiled egg is not enough. So you really have to eat like 3 of those eggs to get the protein that we're talking about. And I would never sit down and eat 3 eggs. It's not going to happen for me. So I think we just have to have lots of variety to pick from all the time for proteins and just be constantly like adding it up. It might be one of those things you want to do the math on. So you just Google or you get a tracking app on your phone and you just start tracking how many grams of protein am I really getting in my diet, because it takes immense effort for me to get to what I'm supposed to get for the age I am, which, by the way, you and I, our age group, need even more protein than we needed in our 30s, which is just, it's getting harder and harder here. But the data is coming out. We need more and more protein as our hormones shift, for even things as interesting as our bone health linked with protein. So we just have a lot going on. I find it hard.
The third big category to cover today, and we could do literally 10 different series on this, and we will. July is Brain Health Month at Cultivate, so we're talking more and more about it in our collective, our Empowered Wellness Collective, which is our opportunity to speak to our community in much more depth on these subjects that we find are really imperative. Again, Dr. Kara and I, when we're doing one-on-one visits, there's too much in a visit to deep dive on some of these topics. And we're trying to get it so that you're learning information from us and not like from TikTok, although valuable many times online, but we're really going through the research and covering it. So July's Brain Health Month. We're very excited. And the third thing that we'll talk about today is just fats, essential fats. The thing that helps in the blue zones and these people who age well and long, many of them are getting exposed to a lot of essential fatty acids. We are very deficient as a society unless we are supplementing it or paying a ton of attention towards it. So things like anchovies, sardines, chia seeds and hemp seeds can contribute, but like even hemp seeds, when you look at the amount of essential fats you get from 3 tablespoons, which is a lot of hemp seeds, it doesn't even, it's just that not as much as when you're taking fish. So you want we have our patients on essential fatty acid supplements because again, it's like what Kara was saying about the protein, it's hard to get enough. So
I want to jump in on that because I love those hemp hearts so much. You keep them in the refrigerator. A bag seems expensive, but it lasts you a long time. So just go for it and grab it. And a tablespoon is going to give you about 5 grams or so. So Hillary mentioned 3 tablespoons. So if you're trying to have yogurt or something, or a non-dairy yogurt at breakfast, and you're trying to bump up the protein, because those non-dairy yogurts do not have a lot of protein in them. So if you're trying to bump up the protein, then you can do 3 tablespoons. You'll get 15 grams of protein that way, and you'll get some essential fatty acids. That's a great strategy, actually. But it's those kinds of things, having walnuts around, having so many different sources in your house so you bring them in your diet, because these are essential fatty acids. Essential refers to we cannot make these. You have to get them from your diet or supplements. We also find that the diet doesn't necessarily cut it. It's very rare. It happens. It's rare that I see them not deficient in blood work. So I'm always surprised, like, oh, look at these omega-3 fats. This person's having these essential fats in their lives. This is so great. How are they getting them in? So I always ask those people. It is definitely genetic predisposition. It's certain groups of people somehow absorb and store these fats better than others. So whether they're eating the salmon or they're eating walnuts, whatever it is, they're sucking it in and they are holding on to it better than the rest of us because they can do it alone from diet. But like I said, it's very few people that I see in clinical practice that can do it from diet alone. So we like to have almost everyone on either a fish oil or an algae oil. And we have to talk about brain too, because this can actually change the firing of your neurons. So these fats are very anti-inflammatory in your body. We talk about it with joint pain a lot. You hear about it with arthritis or any kind of like creaky low back, creaky knees, that kind of stuff. These essential fatty acids really help there, but they help for so many different things in the body. A lot of the research is on cardiovascular health, but the brain research is phenomenal here. So if we want to keep our memories active and keep our brains functioning, we really want these good fats. If you want your children to do well in school, they could benefit from having more of these fats, because we have research on, higher IQs and better test scores and things like that with these kind of fats. So our brains just really love to run on these fats for fuel. They love them.
It's awesome. All right, you guys, brain health. Let's do more, get more.
Bye.
Get more fats, get more protein, B12. Bye.